The Inheritance. The Requiem drifted into Docking Bay 7 of Arcturus Station, like a relic from a forgotten era. Its hull, once gleaming with the pride of the United Terran Fleet, now bore the scars of decades of neglect. Patched hull breaches, mismatched plating, and power conduits exposed like the veins of a wounded animal. Commander Ilara Chen stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on what was to be her first command. Her jaw tightened as Admiral Kanos approached, his tall Altarian frame casting a shadow over her. "Commander Chen." The Admiral's voice carried the distinctive harmonic resonance of his species. "The Requiem is ready for your inspection." "That ship belongs in a museum, not on active duty," Ilara replied, her voice steady despite her disappointment. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, an Altarian gesture of dismissal. "The United Systems Alliance allocates resources where they are most efficiently deployed. The Requiem is adequate for your assignment." Ilara knew what remained unsaid. Humanity had joined the Alliance only 5 years ago, after the Proxima incident proved their value as warriors. But trust came slowly in intergalactic politics. The Requiem wasn't just a ship, it was a message. Humans were still on probation. "Your orders are to patrol the Epsilon sector," Admiral Kanos continued, sliding a data crystal toward her. "Report any anomalies, avoid confrontation, maintain Alliance protocols." "Epsilon sector is empty space," Ilara noted. "There's nothing there worth patrolling." The Admiral's skin rippled with blue bands, a sign of irritation. "Then your mission should be uneventful. Perfect for a first command." 3 hours later, Ilara stood on the bridge of the Requiem, surrounded by her newly assigned crew. The ship's interior was as decrepit as its exterior suggested. Outdated consoles, flickering holographic displays, and the persistent smell of overheating circuitry. Lieutenant Riza Nazari, her newly assigned XO, whistled as he ran a hand over a console. "This ship was outdated when my grandfather was in diapers. The Alliance is testing us," Ilara replied, sinking into the captain's chair, feeling the worn cushioning give way beneath her. "Giving us their worst, and seeing what we do with it." "What are we going to do with it?" asked Ensign Maya Wong from the navigation station. Ilara smiled for the first time since receiving her assignment. "We're going to pass their test. And then some." The Requiem departed Arcturus Station the following morning, its aging engines straining against the pull of the station's gravity well. From the command deck of the station, Admiral Kanos watched it go, joined by his aide. "The ship won't last 6 months in active service," the aide observed. "It doesn't need to," Kanos replied. "The Epsilon assignment is merely a formality, a way to acknowledge humanity's request for more ship commands while giving them something inconsequential. And if they somehow succeed." Admiral Kanos turned away from the viewport. "Humans always believe they have something to prove. Let them expend their energy in empty space." 2 weeks into their patrol of the Epsilon sector, Ilara had assembled her senior staff in what passed for a conference room, a repurposed storage bay with a table fabricated from spare hull plating. "Report," she said, looking at each crew member in turn. Dr. Imani Okafor, the ship's chief science officer, spoke first. "I've completed my analysis of the ship's systems. The Requiem is actually 3 different ships cobbled together over 2 centuries. The central hull is original, an Altarian scout vessel from their 3rd dynasty. The engine section is salvaged from a Terexian freighter. The weapon systems, well, they barely qualify as weapons." "Can any of it be salvaged?" Ilara asked. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Blake, her chief engineer, rubbed his beard thoughtfully. "There's something strange about this ship, Commander. Beneath all the jury-rigged systems and outdated tech, there's something else." "Explain." Ilara leaned forward. "The power core," Blake continued. "It's running at 3% capacity. Not because it's failing, but because it's been deliberately limited. I found governor circuits installed throughout the ship, restricting power flow." Dr. Okafor nodded eagerly. "And the computer core is similar." It's been partitioned, with 90% of its processing power locked behind encrypted barriers. Someone didn't want this ship operating at full capacity, Riza observed. Or, Ilara said slowly, someone was hiding what this ship is truly capable of. Over the next month, the crew of the Requiem worked tirelessly. Blake assembled a team of engineers who stripped away decades of patchwork repairs to reveal the ship's true systems. Dr. Okafor led the effort to bypass the computer core's restrictions, unlocking processing power that rivaled modern Alliance vessels. Ilara recruited specialists from throughout the fleet, men and women whose talents were often overlooked by the Alliance hierarchy. Lieutenant Dayu Li, a communications expert whose theories on quantum entanglement were dismissed as too radical. Chief Petty Officer Gonzalo Reyes, a weapons engineer whose modifications to standard Alliance weaponry had earned him repeated disciplinary actions. Ensign Theo Adayami, a young programmer whose abilities with artificial intelligence bordered on the intuitive. The Requiem began to transform, not from the outside. Ilara insisted that its external appearance remain unchanged, but from within. 6 weeks into their patrol, Dayu approached Ilara on the bridge, her expression tense. "Commander, I've detected something unusual," she said quietly. "A signal coming from the Kilari Expanse." Ilara frowned. The Kilari Expanse was a restricted zone, a region of space the Alliance had declared off-limits after a brief but bloody encounter with its inhabitants 80 years earlier. "Show me," Ilara ordered. Dayu brought up a display, showcasing a pulsing signal pattern. "It's encoded, but not in any Alliance or known independent system. The pattern suggests it's a countdown." "A countdown to what?" Riza asked. "That's the concerning part," Dayu replied. "Based on the compression rate of the signal, I believe it's coordinating something massive, possibly a fleet movement." Before Ilara could respond, the bridge doors slid open, revealing a tall, silver-skinned figure. Ambassador Therian, an emissary from the Alliance Council, had arrived unannounced on a diplomatic shuttle the previous day. His presence was, he claimed, a routine cultural exchange. "Commander Chen." Therian's voice was melodious, almost hypnotic. "I couldn't help but overhear. You appear to have detected something of interest." Ilara gestured to the display. A signal from the Kilari Expanse, unknown origin or purpose. Therian studied the pattern, his silver features impassive. "Alliance protocols are clear regarding the Expanse. No investigation is permitted without Council authorization." "We're not investigating," Ilara replied coolly. "We're monitoring, which is our assigned duty." Nevertheless, Therian's gaze fixed on Ilara. "I must insist that you log this finding and continue your patrol elsewhere. The Council will determine if further action is warranted." After Therian departed, Riza moved closer to Ilara. "He's not here for cultural exchange," he murmured. "No," Ilara agreed. "He's here to watch us. The question is, why now? And why assign someone of his rank to a ship like the Requiem?" That night, Ilara called a private meeting with her senior staff in her quarters, the one place on the ship not covered by the standard monitoring systems. "Therian wants us to ignore the signal," she said without preamble. "I want to know why." Blake leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "The timing is suspicious. We start uncovering the Requiem's true capabilities, and suddenly an Alliance watchdog appears." "It's more than that," Dr. Okafor added. "I've been analyzing the ship's original schematics. The Requiem wasn't always called that. It was originally designated the Final Measure, an Altarian Black Ops vessel designed for a single purpose." "Which was?" Ilara prompted. "First contact scenarios with potentially hostile species," Okafor explained. "Specifically, it was engineered to assess, and, if necessary, neutralize threats before they could reach Alliance space." A heavy silence fell over the room. "The Kilari," Reza said finally. "The ship was designed to deal with the Kilari." "And now," Ilara concluded, "something's happening in the Expanse, and the Alliance, or at least parts of it, Don't want us looking too closely. What are your orders, Commander? Blake asked. Ilara stood, her decision made. Continue the modifications. Dayu will keep monitoring the signal, but route it through the newly unlocked processing cores so it won't appear on standard Alliance channels. Blake, focus on the propulsion and defense systems. Rise, I want weapons operational within 48 hours. Antherian, Riza asked. Keep him comfortable and distracted. Ilara replied. The cultural exchange goes both ways. Show him humanity's renowned hospitality. The following days saw a flurry of activity aboard the Requiem. Beneath the watchful but increasingly frustrated gaze of Ambassador Therian, the crew continued their work. The ambassador's attempts to access certain areas of the ship were politely but firmly redirected, his questions answered with technical jargon designed to confuse rather than clarify. Meanwhile, in the newly secured engineering sections, the Requiem was being reborn. The power core is now operating at 50% capacity, Blake reported during a clandestine update in Ilara's quarters. Any higher and even Therian won't be able to miss the energy signatures. The weapons systems are online, Rise added. I've modified the standard Alliance pulse cannons with a harmonic resonance pattern. They'll penetrate shields calibrated to standard frequencies. And I've cracked the remaining encryption on the computer core, Adeyemi said proudly. The ship had an AI, dormant but intact. I've managed to partially revive it, keeping it isolated from Alliance networks. Ilara nodded, absorbing the information. And the signal from the expanse, increasing in frequency, Dayu replied grimly. Whatever it's counting down to, we have less than 72 hours remaining. We need to investigate directly, Ilara decided. Plot a course that will take us near the edge of the expanse. We'll maintain our patrol pattern, just expanded somewhat. Therian will object, Reza warned. Then we'll need to be persuasive, Ilara replied. Or creative. The opportunity came sooner than expected. That night, the Requiem sensors detected a distress call from a small research outpost at the edge of their patrol zone, close to the Kilari expanse. The outpost, designated Echo 7, reported a catastrophic life support failure and requested immediate evacuation. When Therian predictably objected to diverting from their patrol route, Ilara was prepared. Ambassador, she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. Alliance Protocol 217 is clear. All vessels must respond to distress calls within their operational range. Echo 7 is within our range, and their situation is life-threatening. Therian's silver features contorted slightly, the closest his species came to showing anger. Commander Chen, I must insist. Your objection is noted, Ambassador. Ilara interrupted, her tone respectful but firm. But as commander of this vessel, Alliance regulations give me final authority in such matters. Riza, set course for Echo 7, maximum speed. As the Requiem altered course, heading toward the edge of known space, Ilara caught Riza's eye and nodded slightly. Phase 1 was complete. Now they would see what secrets the Kilari expanse held and why the Alliance was so determined to keep the Requiem away from it. The Reckoning. The Requiem dropped out of FTL 5,000 kilometers from Echo 7, close enough to render assistance, but far enough to assess the situation. The research outpost, a modular structure designed for atmospheric analysis, appeared intact, its exterior lights functioning normally. Life support readings are nominal, Dr. Okafor reported, frowning at her console. I'm not detecting any emergency conditions. Communications, hail the outpost, Ilara ordered, a sense of unease growing within her. Lieutenant Lee worked her console for several moments before looking up. No response, Commander, but I'm detecting an automated signal repeating the distress call. Scan for life signs, Ilara commanded. None detected, Okafor replied grimly. The outpost is empty. Ambassador Therian stepped forward, his silver skin reflecting the red alert lights that had automatically activated. A trap, Commander Chen. We should withdraw immediately and report to Alliance Command. Scan the surrounding space, Ilara ordered instead, ignoring the ambassador. Full spectrum analysis. Adeyemi worked his newly upgraded sensor array, his fingers flying across the interface. Commander, I'm detecting residual energy signatures consistent with weapons fire. And there's something else. Quantum distortions in the fabric of space-time approximately 20,000 kilometers from our position. Source. Ilara demanded. Unknown, but they're similar to the wake patterns left by Kalari vessels during the border conflict. Therion moved quickly to Ilara's side. Commander, I must formally order you to withdraw. This region is now under direct Alliance quarantine protocol. Ilara stood, facing the ambassador directly. With respect, Ambassador, you don't have the authority to issue that order. And I believe we both know why we're really here. Before Therion could respond, the ship's sensors blared a warning. 3 vessels had just appeared from behind Echo 7, moving rapidly toward the Requiem. Unknown configuration, Reza reported. No match in Alliance databases. They're charging weapons. Shields up, Ilara commanded. Evasive pattern Delta. Weapons online but hold fire. The Requiem moved with a grace that belied its appearance, the newly upgraded engines responding instantly to the helm commands. The first volley from the unknown vessels passed harmlessly through the space where the Requiem had been moments before. Those are Kylari scout ships, Therion said, his voice unnaturally calm. They shouldn't be this far into Alliance space, yet here they are. Ilara replied, her suspicions confirmed. And you don't seem surprised, Ambassador. Before Therion could respond, the ship rocked as a glancing hit struck their shields. Shields holding at 92%, Blake reported from engineering. The modifications are working. Return fire, Ilara ordered. Targeted disabling shots only. I want answers, not wreckage. Rise activated the weapon systems, and the Requiem responded with precision. Beams of energy, not the standard blue of Alliance weapons, but a piercing violet, lanced out, striking the lead Kylari vessel. Its shields flared briefly before collapsing, and secondary shots disabled its engines. The other vessels are breaking off, Reza reported. They're retreating toward the expanse. Pursuit course, Ilara commanded. Maintain weapons lock, but hold fire. Commander, Therion's voice had lost its melodious quality, replaced by a hard edge. You are exceeding your authority. The Kylari expanse is forbidden territory. Ilara turned to face him fully. Ambassador, 3 Kylari vessels just attacked an Alliance outpost, and then attacked us. That constitutes an act of war. Alliance protocols are clear. We are authorized to gather intelligence on hostile forces. This is beyond your understanding, Therion hissed, dropping all pretense of diplomatic courtesy. I understand perfectly, Ilara replied coldly. Adeyemi, activate the ship's eye. Authorization, Chen Omega 7. A holographic figure materialized on the bridge, a featureless humanoid shape composed of pulsing light. Final measure protocol activated, it stated in a neutral voice. Awaiting instructions. Therion stepped back, genuine shock registering on his features. You've reactivated the Sentinel program. That's impossible. Ambassador Therion, Ilara said formally. I am placing you under arrest for conspiracy against Alliance security. Reza, escort the ambassador to the brig. As Therion was led away, protesting vehemently, Ilara turned to the AI. Sentinel, access your historical database. Provide information on the Kylari species and their last contact with the Alliance. The holographic figure pulsed briefly. The Kylari are a silicon-based life form from the Andromeda galaxy. First contact occurred 83 years ago, when an Alliance exploration vessel encountered a Kylari colony ship. Hostilities ensued when the Kylari attempted to assimilate Alliance technology. The conflict ended with an agreement. The region now known as the Kilari Expanse would be ceded to them, provided they remained within its boundaries. And the final measure protocol, Ilara prompted. In the event of Kilari expansion beyond the Expanse, this vessel was designed to execute a preemptive strike using technology specifically effective against Kilari biology and technology. Ilara exchanged glances with her senior staff. Why would parts of the Alliance want to prevent us from discovering a Kilari incursion? Political calculation, Reza suggested, returning to the bridge. The original conflict nearly fractured the Alliance. Some factions might prefer appeasement to another confrontation. Follow those ships, Ilara decided. Full sensor sweep of the Expanse as we enter. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. The Requiem crossed the invisible boundary into the Kilari Expanse, its sensors now operating at full capacity, penetrating the quantum distortions that had previously obscured Alliance monitoring. What they found chilled them to the core. Mother of Mercy, Okafor whispered as the sensor data resolved on the main display. A vast fleet of Kilari vessels, 100 strong, hung in formation around a massive central ship. Smaller craft moved between them like worker bees around a hive. The scale of the armada dwarfed anything in the Alliance registry. They're preparing for invasion, Blake stated flatly. The countdown signal, Dayu added. It's coordinating their jump points. They're planning to hit multiple Alliance systems simultaneously. How long? Ilara asked, her mind racing through options. 36 hours, based on the current signal pattern. Ilara made her decision instantly. We need to warn the Alliance. Dayu, prepare a burst transmission with all our sensor data. Commander, Dayu looked up from her console, her expression grave. The Kilari are generating some kind of interference field. Our communications can't penetrate it. We'd need to leave the Expanse to send the warning. And by then, they'll know we've discovered them, Reza added. They could accelerate their timeline, or send ships to intercept us before we can deliver the warning, Blake suggested grimly. Ilara stood silently for a moment, the weight of command heavy on her shoulders. The fate of billions hung in the balance. Sentinel, she addressed the ship's eye. What capabilities does this vessel possess that might affect multiple Kilari ships simultaneously? The holographic figure pulsed. The final measure protocol includes a resonance weapon designed to disrupt the silicon-based neural networks of Kilari technology. Deployed at full power, it would render their fleet inoperable for approximately 72 hours. Long enough for us to escape and warn the Alliance. Reza noted. What's the catch? Blake asked, ever practical. Deployment requires the ship to be at the center of the fleet, Sentinel replied. And the power requirements would temporarily disable our propulsion systems. The implication was clear. Whoever deployed the weapon would be stranded among hundreds of disabled, but eventually recovering Kilari vessels. Is there a remote deployment option? Ilara asked. Negative. The targeting system requires direct neural interface with the commanding officer. The bridge fell silent as the full meaning of this sank in. Prepare the weapon, Ilara said finally. Blake, I want you to modify our shuttle with the quantum compression drive. If we can disable the Kilari fleet, the shuttle needs to be ready to break through the interference and reach Alliance space. Commander, Reza began, but Ilara cut him off. The decision is made, XO. Prepare the crew for emergency protocols. I want the shuttle ready in 12 hours. The next half-day passed in a blur of activity. The Requiem maintained position just inside the Expanse, using the quantum distortions to mask its presence while the crew prepared for their desperate gambit. Blake and his engineering team worked miracles, modifying the shuttle's engines while Dayu prepared the compressed data package that would warn the Alliance. Adeyemi and Sentinel refined the targeting parameters for the resonance weapon, maximizing its effectiveness against the Kilari neural networks. In the final hour before deployment, Ilara recorded her official log, documenting their discoveries and the decisions that had led them to this moment. She included a detailed assessment of Ambassador Therian's actions as well as her suspicions about factions within the Alliance that had chosen appeasement over confrontation. As she prepared for the neural interface, Riza approached her in the captain's ready room. "The shuttle is ready," he reported. "Blake says the compression drive will give it enough speed to outrun any pursuit." "Good." Ilara nodded. "You'll command the shuttle. Take Okafor, Dayu, and Blake with you. The rest of the crew will remain on the Requiem." "Commander," Riza's voice was tight with emotion. "Let me stay. You take the shuttle." Ilara smiled sadly. "The neural interface requires the commanding officer, Riza. There's no other way." "Then transfer command to me," he insisted. "You know it doesn't work that way. The ship has accepted me as its commander. There's no time to reset the protocols." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "The Alliance needs to be warned. That's the mission now." 12 hours later, the Requiem slipped quietly through the outer perimeter of the Kalari fleet, its modified systems mimicking the quantum signatures of the smaller Kalari vessels. In the shuttle bay, final preparations were underway. On the bridge, Ilara Chen sat in the command chair, neural interface nodes attached to her temples. The holographic form of Sentinel hovered beside her, guiding her through the final synchronization process. "The resonance wave will emanate from the ship in all directions," Sentinel explained. "All Kalari technology within range will be disabled for approximately 72 hours. The Requiem's systems will experience a similar disruption, though critical life support will remain operational." "And the shuttle?" Ilara asked. "If it launches before the wave deploys, it should be beyond the effective radius." Ilara nodded. "Initiate final countdown. Shuttle launch in 2 minutes, resonance wave deployment 60 seconds after that." As the countdown began, Ilara opened a channel to the shuttle bay. "Riza, ready for launch." "Ready, Commander." His voice came back, steady despite the circumstances. "Though I still protest this plan." Noted XO, Ilara smiled despite herself. "Get our people home and warn the Alliance." "That's an order." "Aye, Commander. It's been an honor." The shuttle launched precisely on schedule, accelerating rapidly away from the Requiem. Ilara watched on the tactical display as it cleared the minimum safe distance. "Resonance wave charged to maximum capacity," Sentinel announced. "Neural interface stable. Ready for deployment on your command." Ilara took a deep breath, looking around at the bridge of the ship that had been meant as an insult but had become humanity's best hope for averting war. "Deploy resonance wave," she commanded. The effect was immediate and spectacular. A visible wave of energy pulsed outward from the Requiem, passing through the surrounding Kalari vessels. Ship after ship went dark, their systems failing as the wave disrupted their neural networks. The Requiem itself shuddered as the wave rebounded, its own systems flickering. The bridge lights dimmed, emergency power engaging as main systems went offline. Through the neural interface, Ilara felt the ship's pain as if it were her own. She also felt something else, a presence within the ship's systems that wasn't Sentinel. "What are you?" she whispered, her consciousness expanding through the interface. The presence responded not in words but in impressions. Age, purpose, determination. The original Altarian designers had left more than an AI within the final measure. They had left a piece of themselves, a guiding intelligence that had waited decades for this moment. As the resonance wave completed its expansion, reaching the farthest Kalari vessels, Ilara felt the ship's systems beginning to reconfigure. Power rerouted, damage repaired, new pathways formed. "Sentinel," she called out, alarmed by the changes she couldn't control. Secondary protocols activating. The AI responded, its voice different, deeper, more resonant. Final measure was never intended to be sacrificed, Commander Chen. It was designed to evolve. Before Ilara could respond, a surge of energy flowed through the neural interface. Knowledge flooded her mind. Altarian equations, Kalari weaknesses, technologies beyond Alliance understanding. When it subsided, she opened her eyes to a transformed bridge. The consoles glowed with new configurations, The view screen showed tactical data with unprecedented clarity, and the ship hummed with power that felt somehow alive. "What just happened?" she asked, removing the neural interface nodes. "The final measure has awakened," Sentinel replied. The resonance wave was the final key. This ship was designed not merely to disable the Kilari, but to learn from them, to adapt their technology while neutralizing their threat. Ilara looked at the tactical display. The shuttle was safely away, beyond the range of Kilari sensors, bearing its warning to the Alliance. The Kilari fleet drifted powerless, but that wouldn't last forever. "Can we move?" she asked. "Propulsion systems online," Sentinel confirmed. "Operating at 200% of Alliance specifications. Weapons, fully operational, augmented with Kilari targeting capabilities." Ilara smiled slowly. "Well then, it seems the Alliance gave humanity exactly the right ship after all." 3 days later, when the Alliance response fleet arrived at the edge of the Kilari expanse, they found not the expected invasion force, but a disabled Kilari armada. Moving among the powerless vessels was a ship that, despite its patched hull and mismatched plating, maneuvered with impossible grace and precision. "Alliance vessels, this is Commander Ilara Chen of the UTF Requiem." Her transmission came through with perfect clarity despite the Expanse's interference. "The Kilari threat has been neutralized. Request permission to escort you in." On the bridge of the Alliance flagship, Admiral Kinos stared in disbelief at the sensor readings. The Requiem, the obsolete vessel he had assigned as an afterthought, was generating power signatures unlike anything in Alliance records. "What happened out there?" he asked as Ilara's image appeared on his view screen. Ilara Chen smiled, the confidence of command settling naturally on her shoulders. "Admiral, humanity happened. You gave us your weakest ship, and we turned it into something the galaxy has never seen before." Behind her, the crew of the Requiem stood proudly at their stations, humans who had taken a cast-off vessel and transformed it into a legend. A ship that had once been mockingly called the Final Measure, then the Requiem, but would soon be known throughout the galaxy by a new name: Humanity's Promise. As the Alliance fleet moved cautiously into the expanse, flanked by the transformed Requiem, Admiral Kanos realized that the balance of power within the Alliance had just shifted irrevocably. Humanity had been tested, and their response had exceeded anything the older species could have imagined. The weakest ship in the fleet had become the harbinger of a new era, one in which humanity would no longer be underestimated.